Welcome into college football futures preview, Big Ten West Division. I am Drew Martin, joined by Robbie Veno of WagerTalk.com. We are talking the West Division here, Robbie. We actually have some new names. Brett Bielema to Illinois. Throw it over to you. Is there any other head coaches or even coordinators that I know you research on that you think are going to be a big impact here in the west side of the Big Ten, Robbie?
Yeah, there's a couple, Drew, that could be in the coordinator position or coordinator roles. You start with Northwestern, where 13-year vet Mike Hankwitz has retired, and DC Jim O'Neill takes over. Jim O'Neill is a guy who's been in the NFL for the last 11 years. Long career, 29 years, but the last 11 in the NFL. They bring him in. Not to overhaul the system, Drew. He's going to try and talk to the existing staff, or he has talked to the existing staff to see what works best for this team, and then incorporate some of the stuff he learned from the NFL. So kind of a blended system here. We won't get into detail on that. That's for another time. But Purdue also a team that made heavy changes on the defensive side of the football. The first time that I've seen this in recent memory, Drew, where we have three defensive coordinators. We have basically co-DCs. Brad Lambert comes from Marshall. He was the DC there the last couple of years. Ron English, a guy who actually was the head coach at Purdue and then went to Eastern Michigan, I believe, a defensive coordinator by trade. He also in that mix, as is Mark Hagan, who was the defensive line coach for Texas previously and is his second stint here at Purdue. Lambert's going to be the play caller. And it's a really, really good staff assembled here, Drew. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Going to kind of take Lambert's system that he used at Marshall. And we all know that Marshall has been a premier defensive unit in CUSA for the last few years. So I think some improvements could be coming Purdue's way.
Yeah, could see that as well. And Robbie, one thing that jumps off the board at me in the West Division, Northwestern last year, Pat Fitzgerald, he really had the ball rolling there with the Wildcats. Even ATS, straight up making it all the way to the conference championship game. They looked really good in the bowl game, blowing out my Auburn Tigers. And seeing them at plus 3,000, they lost some, but still, is this maybe a buy low here on Northwestern, or is Northwestern a team you think is actually priced accordingly in the futures market?
Yeah, I think they're priced accordingly, Drew. And in fact, from a point spread perspective in this division, I had them listed as my team to fade in a year where players got the benefit or the choice. Let's put it that way. The choice to come back and play again off of the COVID year. Northwestern didn't have that. Everybody else in the Big Ten, when you look at guys returning, you see big numbers returning on both sides of the football. For Northwestern, they lose 14 of their 22 starters from last year, and it's not exactly a place that just replenishes. And going through a defensive coordinator change here, not that they're going to try and reinvent the wheel at Northwestern, but as I said, there are going to be some new things incorporated. There could be some new terminology that goes with that. Pat Fitzgerald has always held a heavy hand on the defense, so I'm sure he'll have a lot to do with this. But I think that they probably are aptly priced at that number, Drew. I don't see them, making a run like they did last year or anything similar to that point, because we probably wouldn't expect them to. So for me, Northwestern this season, at least from a point spread perspective, is a team to fade.
Robbie, what about PJ Fleck, Scott Frost? Some of these younger coaches kind of bring in, I guess you could say when they took the job, a lot of upside, row the boat with PJ Fleck there. I mean, Scott Frost himself, in Lincoln, it's almost like I wonder if his time is almost up here if he's not able to turn it around in Lincoln. Anything on these two programs in the division? You like maybe a buy low or even a sell? I don't want to say high, especially for the Nebraska side of things, Robbie.
Yeah, Nebraska's a real question to me, Drew, and you're right about Scott Frost. I think he's feeling some of the heat that goes with not having success in Lincoln, Nebraska, because he changed their offense. That UCF offense that he brought there that everybody thought was just going to take off in the Big Ten and never has, it's been changed. He's gone back to a downhill running game. I think, again, feeling some pressure here and trying to appease the alum, going back to some Nebraska-style football. They've got a couple of big imports in the transfer portal, Drew. One, Marquise Stepp a running back from USC that we've seen on the field quite a bit over there. He's a 240-pound running back that they're going to use in this implementation of the downhill running style. And then they went to the FCS. They went to the University of Montana to get a top wide receiver in Samori Toure. Now, Montana didn't play football last year, so he hasn't played since 2019, but he's a first-team FCS wide receiver. He's big at 6'3", almost 200 pounds, in the mold of receivers that Nebraska used to use to do real good amount of blocking. He's a very good receiver by trade, 82 receptions in his last year at Montana, and as I mentioned, all FCS first team, and is probably going to be counted on after spring practice to be their number one receiver as well as a blocker. So Nebraska, a real question to me. Minnesota, I think PJ Fleck has the talent to continue doing what he's doing. Can he build upward in a huge increment, Drew? I'm not sure, because I think he's already done that. So maybe it's little steps from here on out for PJ Fleck. You got to hope you don't slide backwards. I think the other guy you didn't mention is Jeff Brahm at Purdue, right? He came from Louisville. Big reputation as an offensive guy. It hasn't really worked for Purdue yet, but I'll say this. We talked about their defensive coordinator situation, which I think is better. And when you get to their offense, there might not be one that's much better than Purdue's this year. The quarterback play is there, certainly with Jack Plummer and Aiden O'Connell. And then you got top flight wide receivers on this team. This is a team that didn't lose by more than 10 points all season long last year. And it's also a team that when you look at the line of scrimmage, Drew, they really improved as far as rush defense is concerned. They were only minus 0.1 yards per carry on the defensive side of the football last year. So I think that Purdue has more upside than any that we've mentioned so far.
And Robbie, what about you know, your pick to win the division here? We talked about the East Division, guys. You can check it out. This West Division, though, Robbie, in terms of, you know, it's a little bit more wide open. I guess we get a plus 900, a plus 1,200 here to win it in terms of Iowa and Wisconsin. Who is your pick to win the division, Robbie?
Well, I think the odds makers have it right, listing Wisconsin as the favorite. The schedule, when you go through it, Drew, especially the Big Ten schedule, and more specifically inside the division, is really easy for Wisconsin. Your concern would be that they had this kind of talent last year, and last year was very, very disappointing for Wisconsin. Until their last game of the year, I think they had lost 3 or 4 in a row. But that may be a chip on the shoulder type of thing for these guys as well. Graham Mertz is a fantastic quarterback by Wisconsin standards. We know that they're always good on the defensive side. So I think they're deserving of being the favorite based on talent and weakness of schedule. But you're right. There's a lot of teams in that division that can beat Wisconsin. So certainly I think that their status as number one is a little more tenuous than Ohio State's would be on the other side.
And a dark horse here in the division, Robbie. I mean, the Northwestern Wildcats at plus 3,000. You don't think it's worth a shot? What about heck, even Illinois at what, plus 15,000 here? I mean, that's kind of a little bit ridiculous. Purdue plus 7,500. Anything there, Robbie, or is that just lighting your money on fire?
You know, I would almost go with the steady force in Iowa at plus 1,200, Drew. You know what you're going to get from them every single year. They bring back a pretty decent offense where skill positions are concerned, right? That's always what we're looking for with Iowa. Do you have the ability, quarterback, wide receiver, running back wise, to get yourselves to 30 points? This year, they might have that. So I think that possibly Iowa at plus 1,200 would be the team I'd pick out of the bunch. Again, from a point spread perspective, a low-rung team I think will do some damage here covering numbers would be Purdue. Interesting division, Drew. Certainly an interesting division where a lot of teams have an equal chance here.
Absolutely, Robbie. And we are up against it time-wise, but anything else you wanted to throw out here in division? I mean, maybe a team to fade, Robbie, a team you think steps back other than Northwestern, or you think that is the team in the Wildcats?
Well, I'm not sure how you could like Illinois in any capacity here, Drew. It's going to be a complete system change with Brett Bielema. They probably have to weed out their roster, right, and wait till year 2. So maybe year 2 a little more productive. But right now, the combination of Brett Bielema and Tony Peterson as offensive coordinator, I just don't think that they'll be able to get much done. By the way, real quick, their new defensive coordinator, Ryan Walters, former defensive coordinator from Missouri, young guy with a lot of accolades going for him. So we'll see, but I don't think Illinois is going to do much either way, futures board or weekly board.
He's Robbie Veno. I am Drew Martin. This is a college football Big Ten preview from a betting perspective. Guys, make sure to check out WagerTalk and Sportsmemo.com for free odds, free information when it comes to college football betting. Thanks for tuning in. Best of luck with your bets.